Welcome, everyone, to the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I'm joined, as always, by our director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, it is May the 2nd as we record this, which, of course, brings May flowers. So I'm just curious, on the 2080 scale, where do you fall in terms of seasonal allergies? Like, are you kind of the second things start blooming, everything goes to hell type, or are you?
No, I'm chilling right now.
You're chilling. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I do get allergies usually, but this year not so bad so far.
Okay, good. All right. Well, that's good to hear, because we need to get you. We need you out there seeing games. We need some teams to come down here so I can see them.
Well, do you know we also need the rain to stop so I can actually go to games and not be miserable. So
that's true. That's true. That's fair. That's fair. Like, we need to keep you dry.
We had that tease of like 4 days of nice weather, and then it's just been like raining basically every other day since then. So
Exactly. Well, we've got plenty to talk about. We hope you liked our last episode, our interview with Brian Abraham, and it's been, more than 2 weeks since a proper episode. So we've got a lot to talk about, all the goings on. We're going to recap the first month in the organization, talk about what's going on in Boston. Looks like they've righted the ship a little bit. We're going to talk about how the month has gone in the minor leagues as well. So Ian is showing me, did you kill a spider? What the hell is that? Did you kill a spider? You're on mute.
Yes, I did. It was
you're standing up all of a sudden, and then you're showing me the dead spider.
I have a rule about
that was a terrifyingly large spider.
Oh, I know. I have a rule about bugs: is as long as you're not in like a bedroom or a bathroom, you're fine. But if I see you in my bedroom or bathroom, you're getting killed immediately. So
I will keep that in mind.
Yeah. So they had to dispose of it, because it was literally right above me. I looked up at the ceiling and it was just staring at me. I was
that's why you need a cat like I do. She's the one who tracks down.
Well, speaking of
great.
allergies, if you want to see me get bad allergies, then I would get a cat.
I hear you. All right.
Well, not to for a reason.
Eventually on this podcast, we talk about baseball. And if you want to support the show and the baseball and I guess unrelated tangential seasonal allergy and bug talk, you can do it a few ways. First of all, rate and review us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is that you listen to the show. Spread the word to your friends, family, neighbors, your allergist, I guess, anyone who's interested in listening to the show. And of course, you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. And we're, of course, going to get to your emails today on this episode. You can send us your emails at podcast@SoxProspects.com, because we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. But anyways, without further ado, Ian, let's get into it. The Boston Red Sox are back above 500. They are out of last place.
Fourth best record in the league.
What's that?
Fourth best record in the American League.
I didn't even realize that. I know the AL East is. This is why I don't care about quote unquote last place. No. The AL East is monstrous.
Oh, sorry, not. I guess the Twins ended up winning tonight, so it's not. But it's the fourth most wins is what I meant to say.
Aha, I see. Fair enough. Well, at any rate.
But obviously, the three most wins in the American League are in the AL East. So.
I still have no idea what to think about this team, but there's a lot going on in Boston. Ian, they are 17-14 now.
Yep.
Okay, 17-14. Where do we start? I mean, I guess our listeners, the thing they'll be most interested in is what's going on in the lineup, in terms of who, because you've got, on the one hand, Jarren Duran has come back, is the starting center fielder, and looks like a guy again.
That's what I feel good about, that we talked about him when I saw him, and I was like, I know the results aren't good in Worcester, but I like what he's doing. And he's just coming up and raking. Yeah. And
he's playing better defense. Everything
looks
better. More confident.
Well, this started at the end of last season, I think.
Yes.
I remember talking to some scouts who in the past maybe weren't the biggest fans of his game, who were basically just telling me, like, don't bury him. Like, there's still potential for an everyday guy there. Mm-hmm. And he obviously went back, made some big adjustments at the plate that have really paid off. And I think just he seems more focused. He seems more like, I don't know how to say this. Like, he seems more confident in himself. Yeah. Like he's going out there. Yeah. Self-assured. Like, he's not worried about what others are saying about him or thinking. Like, he's just going out there and playing his game the way that, he can. And it's showing that he's, he's really feeling himself on there. And it's good to see that he's hitting the ball hard, playing good defense, running amok on the bases. Like, it's really encouraging, and it's kind of like the jolt the lineup needed, especially after everyone was concerned when Duvall went out, it could be big problems.
Well, when Duvall went out and then Yu Chang starts to get his, kind of confidence going and starts to hit a little bit, he goes down.
Well, the Duvall thing was just brutal timing because it was in the midst of that lefty stretch.
Well, the midst of the lefty stretch,
so they couldn't call up
best
Durant.
Hitter.
Yeah, but then it's also like it's the lefty stretch, so you go to Dahlbeck, who didn't add much.
No.
And then you finally get out of that lefty stretch, and Durant comes up, and all of a sudden, he's one of the best hitters on the team, and he's like hitting fifth now. Like,
yeah. He's basically been the hitter they were hoping Casas was going to be, which I guess is the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
Of Casas has really struggled, and Cora gave him the weekend off, and then they sat him tonight against Kikuchi because he's a lefty. I mean, you got to give him some more time. I mean, look. Everyone remembers Dustin Pedroia was terrible his first month in the major leagues. Like, this is what happens with rookies sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not in danger of being sent to Worcester or anything like that. That said, he does kind of need to get going here.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not encouraging, but I'm not ready to bury him yet either for the same reason of not ready to bury Durant.
I don't know. He's walking a ton, which is good. Like, he's getting in good counts. Like, he knows the strike zone. I think his issue is just, I think he's being a little too selective. He's, like, I think he is has like the second fewest number of hits when headed in the count in the season. I think he has 1 or 2 all year.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're getting yourself in good hitters counts, but not making the pitcher pay, then it's, you're not doing much good. And that's kind of the situation he's in. And he also has like the highest rate of topped or balls that are hit under, like, so he's either topping it or getting under for an infield pop-up in all of Major League Baseball.
Right.
So he's just like, he's not getting lucky at all with his batted ball outcomes. And then a lot of the time when he is making contacts, it's just like weak contact.
Yeah.
I think it's fixable. Like, the approach is there. He's, baseball is a game of adjustments, and this is the first one is on him. The pitchers have started, they throw him a certain way, and now it's on him, to figure it out, because he definitely is missing in the zone a little too much. And it's just going to be, I'm not like pulling the, the raising the red flag or getting, the panic meter is not, we're going a 1 to 10 scale, like, I'm still probably like in the middle at like a 5. It's kind of neutral for me right now. I'm not overly concerned yet.
Meanwhile, Emmanuel Valdez has come up, and as we were kind of talking about before we started recording, I hadn't realized like he's up, and he's going to be up for a bit because they don't have, like, Chang is not coming back soon. Like, he's 6 weeks, and he just had surgery like last week.
I feel like Valdez might be up long enough to like graduate.
He might graduate
prospect rank. Yeah.
Yeah, like, maybe not June, but July. Like
yeah, because if Chang is out 6 to 8 weeks, which I think that was like the early guess.
It was. It's a hamate hook.
That literally puts you like end of June to July. So it's like you're right.
Yeah, Valdez might graduate this year. I mean, he's been exactly as advertised. He can hit, and he's an adventure.
No. He can hit righties.
He can hit righties. Fair.
He can hit righties.
Yep.
Like,
he
hits righties really well. He does one thing really well, which is hit right-handed pitching, which is a very good skill to have, because most often you're going to see righties. His defense is an adventure.
Lightly.
And lefties are a problem. But like, with the way the Red Sox roster is constructed, this is exactly what they needed. We talked about it with Mondesi. They needed a left-handed hitting middle infielder. And if he can be that guy, great. Like, that's an awesome outcome for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And even though I think that his overall value is going to get pulled down by the lack of defensive ability and left-handed pitching, like, he's been a jolt in that lineup, just like Duran was. Valdez has come up, and I think he's hitting over like 350 I think I have it right here. Since his recall, he's hitting, I just had it. Oh, there it is. Since his recall, he's hitting 300. No, that's not right. Okay, I don't have it, but anyway, he's been very good since his recall. So yeah, I mean,
this is Valdez you're talking about, because he came up for one game, basically, and went right back down because he came up the night that like Chang was virtually there for his child to be born.
He's 333, 583 with a home run and a steal. So 8 hits and 24 at bats. You can't ask for much more from a guy in making his big league debut. And I think that with the roster construction, with Arroyo starting to hit, like, and Yoshida basically turning into like Babe Ruth. I mean,
Yeah,
this
Yoshida's he came out of his funk.
this is like the lineup is a
Good lineup,
problem.
man.
It's
Connor
a very
Wong.
good lineup. Yeah, Connor Wong.
I'm into Connor Wong.
The Red Sox catching duo turning into one of the best in baseball. Didn't have that on the bingo card, but
Well,
here
and the
we
thing
are.
too with Wong, like, I mean, Grant, there was the stretch when they faced a lot of lefties, and it's very clear that like if a lefty starter is on the mound, Wong is catching.
Yeah,
Because they basically did not play. I was stunned how little Reese McGuire played when they were in that stretch of left-handed starters. Like, I know, granted, you don't want to play him against very many left-handed starters. I think he only faced one. Like, it was incredible. They just basically went one catcher for 2 weeks. But like even against righties, he's playing half of those games too, if not more. I mean, I think I made the point earlier. He's started 7 of the last 10.
and I think it's defense. Like,
yeah.
Connor
He's
Wong,
been great. He's been terrific on
can
defense.
control the running game. And Reese McGuire, as we saw when it started in the Orioles series, and we've seen that he
not as good.
Catch and throw is not a good part of his game.
Which is Wong, not something I realized.
No,
honestly,
like, he's got like a noodle arm. But whereas Wong, I mean, and this thing is, in his overall metrics are okay, slightly above average.
Who,
because
Wong?
No, McGuire.
Okay,
Wong's are really good.
Yeah, I was
going
to say Wong has been one of the most valuable defenders in baseball.
Yeah, no, because McGuire's receiving is decent. It's just the throwing part is a major issue. Okay, whereas Wong is just a very good defender. And I mean, you're going to see like the bat is now coming around too. And it's just, I think we've talked about it with him. Like, he has pop, he's athletic, the swing is good. It's just all going to come down to swing decisions and cutting down the swing and miss, because he can get a little over aggressive. But if he can keep his K rate under like 28%, in the 25% range, like he's going to have 100. He's going to be an above average hitter. Like our WRC plus is going to be over 100. He'll be like in the 105, 110 in that range.
And you don't even need that much out of your catcher who hits eighth.
Well, no, with his defense, frankly, he could literally hit like 210 and it'd be fine. But anything you get from him is just like a cherry on top, because his defense and his arm is just such a weapon. Like tonight, we're recording this tonight. Tanner Houck gave up 6 runs and they still won the game in 1 inning. But Wong had a pop time where there was a stolen base, his pop time was like 188, I think they said on the broadcast.
Was it really? Jeez.
And he's like, his average is like under 1.9, which 2.0 is considered average. So he's like well above average. Like you're pushing like a 65, 70 arm.
And just for people, just to define the term, pop time is called a pop time because it's the time from when the catcher receives the ball to when the second baseman or shortstop receives the ball on the throw.
Yes, when it hits their mitt to when it hits the second baseman's mitt, basically.
Hence pop, because you're timing it based on the pops.
And
by the time you hear the next pop, the funk shall be within you.
I don't know what that reference is.
Don't worry about it.
But when if you're putting pops up of like 185, 186, 188, and they're still stealing bases, that's on the pitcher. That's not on Wong.
100%.
Which is exactly what happened tonight. But he's like, I've been very impressed with his defense, and it's just nice to see him, Verdugo, Yoshida, like the guys that I think coming into the season people were being pretty critical on, or critical of, the high and blue moves in the offseason. A lot of the guys that they've kind of stuck their neck out for on the offensive side are coming through this year.
Yeah.
And I think it just shows you got to be patient with guys. Like, baseball development, baseball's really hard. Like, I think we've said this over and over again. Like,
development is not linear.
Yeah, no, like you're going to have there's going to be ups and downs, and I'm sure there's going to be downs with these guys too. But the way they're playing right now and the way the offense is showing out night after night and keeping them in games, like if they can just figure out the rotation, this is a team with a legit chance to make the playoffs. And
I was going to say
the rotation though is
that brings us to the pitching.
Well, it's just the bullpen's good. It's not the bullpen; it's the rotation.
No, and I mean, plus with the bullpen, I mean, just to knock this out real quick, Caleb Ort's finally gone. Option to Worcester.
I would have
Brendan Bernardino, by the way,
good
guy
in,
nice like that.
Yeah,
there's your second lefty, and Joely Rodriguez threw a bullpen today.
Well, that's
Myers, and he's getting close.
It's looking. I think he threw an extended game today. Because they said
he threw an inning and extended. You're right.
Yeah, because they said his next appearance is going to be with either Portland or Worcester.
Yep.
Which I was going to. You're leading me in. Thank you to what I was going to say next is I'm going to be very interested to see what they do when he comes back, because
I know what I would do.
I do too.
I don't think it's what they're going to do.
I don't either, but it would be Brazier for me.
Well, because here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Kenley Jansen is down right now with the back issue. Chris Martin is going to be he's going to have to really pitch his way out of a late inning role.
He's your 7th inning guy. Because I'm pretty sure it looks like Winckowski is more or less your 8th inning guy now.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Winckowski's pitched his way into a late inning role. Schreiber's been good. He hasn't been what he's been last year, but he's been fine.
I think for Winckowski, too, it was very telling that tonight, when they said he was down tonight, they went to him for the save rather than pitching Martin in back-to-back. Like, both threw yesterday. Winckowski threw 2 innings. Schreiber threw an inning. Or sorry, Martin.
Well, the bullpen's on fumes, though.
But that was interesting to me that they literally said before the game, Cora said that Winckowski likely won't be available today. And yet, in a save situation, they didn't go to Chris Martin, who only threw 1 inning yesterday. They went to Winckowski, who threw 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
that shows to me the hierarchy is pretty clearly Jansen is 1. I think Winckowski's 2. Like, that's how I would rank the bullpen right now. Which is a fascinating kind of development. Kind of what we talked about
his way into it, and then you've got Cutter Crawford as that long inning guy that they need right now with the problems they're having in the rotation.
Yeah.
The problem is just, it's we're back to who's the ace, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, Chris Sale has been disappointing. He's been up and down.
He's had 2 good starts. He'll go good start, bad. He's kind of yo-yoing good and bad starts.
Kluber similarly, just like
Kluber's pitching like a guy. He's pitching like a 5. But he's not your 5, unfortunately.
Pivetta, he is what he is. He goes out and throws 6 innings every 5 days. Bayo, they sent down and immediately had to call back up because Whitlock went on the IL.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to give. We can have the Whitlock starting discussion at another time. We've got too much to talk about today because I don't want to have that conversation right now because we've already had it. But that brings us to tonight's starter, who. Look, James Paxton's going to get 1 more rehab start, and then his 30 days are up. So he's only getting the 1 more. I think he's only getting the 1 more to punt the decision 5 more days. Honestly,
I think so too.
I don't think he needs another start. I think they're just like, well, you know what? Like,
who is he lined up with right now? He pitched on Sunday.
Paxton is going to start. I can tell you right now, he's going to start on Thursday.
So that would be Pivetta, right?
Yeah, but you can always just push people back a day.
No, I know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so he's starting, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, Paxton is throwing.
It's Friday
the 5th.
Okay, he's lined up with Sale right now. But that's easy.
They're not going to remove Sale. They'll just push him a day.
It's going to be Houck or Pivetta, and I think it's going to be Houck. Would be my guess. And I think, I know Tanner Houck had that last start, the 7-inning start, but you're seeing his limitations. Like, second time through the order gets worse. Third time through the order turn is just bad. And I give him a lot of credit for the changes he's made to his arsenal, adding the cutter. But at the end of the day, with that arm slot and his pitch mix and command, you're just limited. Like, you're just limited in what you can do. And I think that for me, the Red Sox would be best suited, especially with Winckowski now not really being a bridge guy. You kind of have to use him in late innings with Houck in the bullpen, and that would require Paxton being healthy and good, and that's the question mark we'll have to see.
Well, let me add, just to make a point on who he replaces. Don't forget they have off days on the 8th and 11th.
Oh, so they can easily line up. So they can
line them up wherever the hell they want. So they can do a lot of stuff. I mean, the way the rotation, we're going to get 1 more turn before the first off day, and then the 9th and the 10th can be basically anyone from Pivetta, Bayo, Sale on Pivetta and Bayo on the first night, and then you could add Sale on the second night. And coming out of that, you can literally line up the rotation however the heck you want. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm curious how they're going to play that. I'm curious how they're going to play the bullpen out, especially when, like you said, when Paxton comes back, because he's going to be the first one off the IL. Presumably, you kick someone to the bullpen. Who goes from the bullpen? Like, do you option Bernardino?
Yeah, like if both Rodriguez and Paxton come up, you kind of have to.
One of them is going to be Bernardino, yes,
and the other one has to be Brazier. There's no other option. Like, you're not
unless you're going to send Crawford down.
You're not sending Crawford down. No,
he needs to be up. I think they've realized that. I think they've realized they don't need him to be stretched out in AAA.
But he is still stretched out. He threw 6 innings in relief, like his last outing.
Right. Well, 4 was the last outing. The one before that
was 4, was 6. Yeah.
The one before that was 2, but on 34 pitches, and then like the 6 1/3 was his outing before that.
Yeah.
I guess I should say the outing before the pinch running appearance.
Right, of course.
But yeah, it's great. Like, when's the last time they had a reliever go 6, other than like Pedro against the Tribe and the playoffs?
Who was it? Who threw? Was it Eovaldi who threw in relief in that like 19
the
game
Dodgers
against the
game.
Dodgers?
That's exactly
I think it was
what
Eovaldi.
That's
Was
exactly
it Eovaldi?
What it was. Yes,
it was, right?
Yes, yeah. That's why they gave him the contract practically.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
But no, I think though that just kind of the over as I said though, it's gonna the pitching staff, they need to get the starting rotation healthy and figure out their 5 guys. And if they can just get like they're winning games in spite of the rotation, if they can just find some consistency and get some guys to pitch into the 6th inning, then like this is a legit team. Like they have they fixed a lot of the issues from last season. The bullpen is good. The lineup walks a ton, gets guys on base, and can actually score like runs consistently. And they hit home runs. Like there's a lot of encouraging signs so far. And
they can carry Casas trying to figure it out. Right. Yeah. I mean, that was the problem. Like that's the problem that they were having at the very beginning of the year, is like you can't carry Casas trying to figure it out if you also have like Kike trying to figure it out, and Yoshida trying to figure it out, and Turner hurt, and Verdugo just kind of middling. And Verdugo's been becoming a David Ortiz the past week. Like,
well, and it's interesting though, as you said, like if you look in their lineup now, and this is obviously like this is why we talk about like you don't want to overreact to 2 weeks or whatever, because you would have been very concerned about their lineup in terms of WRC plus. Like obviously Duvall's first, but you have Duran is at 197, Valdez 147, Verdugo 141, Yoshida 134, Devers 118, McGuire 109, Turner 102, Tapia 99, Hernandez 93, and Wong is 85, and that doesn't include tonight. Like
tonight alone, he's probably going to bump that up 10 points.
The only people who you would consider like a below average WRC plus are
Casas.
Arroyo and Casas.
Yep.
Who have like meaningful at bats, like or like a meaningful number of at bats.
So not like Ref Snyder. Yeah.
Well, Ref Snyder is
he
at
matches
80,
lefties.
He's at 81, but his like he's not. It's all splits because it's that week he had to remember when he had to play against righties for that stretch.
Yeah, because that's before they brought Duran up.
His season line is 196, 339, 283, but he has an 81 WRC plus, which tells you that like he's doing something right if it's still that high. So. Yeah, like I don't really consider him either, but yeah, like they really can run out, 7 guys who are, league average to better WRC pluses, which is just a really encouraging development.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the month that was down on the farm then. The major league team kind of having been reviewed. I guess we'll start this with just kind of Ian, what our top level sort of thoughts are on the first month of the season, and then we can kind of go level by level, and we'll get into some guys you've seen in Worcester and Portland, or I should say maybe in Manchester.
It was Manchester,
and maybe we'll actually start with one of them, because I kind of want to start on the pitching side, because that's really, after 1 month, I think you learn a lot more about your pitching than you learn about your hitting.
I would agree,
because it's still so early that there can still be a lot of flukiness. You have the weird like 3-game set, and then they've had basically, other than AAA, I think they've had 3 full series at this point. There's still a lot. Like I need the sample size to get bigger before I make too much of it. Although there's some guys who you all have asked about. We will talk about them. Don't worry.
It's also with hitter data. Like a lot of it doesn't really
not useful
become relevant until like 150 plate appearances. So
yeah, not useful yet.
It's an interesting like look at the stuff, but yeah, like I think at the end of May we'll have more to dive into with stuff like that, or the end of this month.
Yeah, well, to me, top level then pitching wise, it's the Shane Drohan breakout. That's the story.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Let's just say he's the best pitching prospect in the system, and it's not really that close.
Yes, we are going to update our rankings later this week. We usually do it at the very beginning of the month, but we're going to do it a shade later.
We're changing the schedule this year.
I think the schedule is going to be a little different. It's still going to be the beginning of the month, but not necessarily on the 1st or 2nd. It might be on like the 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah.
Drohan really, he had helium coming into the year. He had jumped like 10 spots to 12. Not going to give away where he's going to be, but I think you've already kind of given away the goods that he's the system's top pitching prospect now. Why don't you talk about what you've seen there, because he is going to be our pitcher of the month. It actually was kind of close. Brian Van Bell had a chance to maybe win it if he had pitched.
Because that Portland team is like stacked. They're like,
it's stacked, and they played a bunch of terrible teams to start.
Yeah, they're like
they did,
15-5 or
but to
whatever.
me the thing was that like they played Erie in the last series of the month, and Drohan
Manchester was
pitched well.
terrible. I don't know what their
Yeah.
record is, but I saw them and they were horrific.
Drohan wasn't good, and the team they played the first week wasn't good, but Erie's pretty good. And
Well, no,
this month I want to see.
Drohan's always been good. He's been good every start.
No, that's what I'm saying. No,
Okay,
that's
okay.
that's literally my point.
Yeah,
Is the first team they played wasn't great. No, the first two teams they played weren't great. You saw not Portland. You saw Manchester / New Hampshire. They're not great. Erie's pretty good, and this month they play.
Erie's
Somerset.
good. They got like Cole Keith, and they got a bunch of other.
And
good
this month they play Somerset, so that's a series I'm going to.
Somerset good. I'm going to see them there. So
Somerset's good again.
Yeah.
So those are the series that I really want to see. So I was really encouraged by the fact that Drohan pitched well against Erie, because it's like, okay, because the thing is we'd be looking at player of the week and it would be like Drohan, Van Bell, Sterling, Sharp, like all pitching well. Sejong Liu was good a couple of weeks. Like Wyatt Olds is the only starter in that rotation that's really kind of struggling, and it's because it's command. It's not stuff wise. It's like he can't find the strike zone. He's back to hitting guys left and right again. But Drohan, we talked about what's new in the last episode, but what did you see from him in your start in Manchester?
Yeah, so I mean he was excellent. He went 6 innings, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, just in complete control throughout. And I think the thing that was most noticeable is what we talked about coming out of spring training was the velo gains were there. Came out, he was like 93 to 95 in the first inning, settled in and pitched the rest of the game like 92, 93, 92, 94. So, right there, like 55, above average velocity, average slightly a better velocity. Usually from the left side, it's a little lower scale. So the velocity is, up basically almost 2 miles an hour from where it was last year on average. I think last year he averaged 90.8 with his fastball. This year so far in the first month, he averaged 91.6. So when the velo gain, it's obviously it's good. And it shows because he's just so much more confident using his fastball.
Rohan, this month it's 92.6.
92.6, sorry, 92.6 and 90.8, 1.8 mile per hour difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's just so much more confident with it, and he's able to miss bats with it. So he's willing to attack hitters with his fastball, generates a ton of weak contact because he's got really good command now. I think he had his control. He had 4 walks in the entire month, I think, in 26 innings, I want to say.
23
innings, sorry, 26 strikeouts though. But the command is like he can do it to all 4 quadrants.
K rate above 30%.
Yeah, he's comfortable throwing to both righties and lefties. And I think the thing with when you add in the cutter, he's now got 4 legit pitches. Like he's throwing all of his pitches a noticeable amount. Like he's not one of those guys like Houck used to be, who was like 2 pitches and then you throw your third pitch like 5% of the time.
Yeah.
Like he's throwing all his secondary pitches at least 12% of the time. And when you're doing that with his changeup is still really good. That's his go-to out pitch, like 83 to 86 in this
he
outing.
Added last year.
Yeah. He was 83 to 86 in this outing. I said it was a plus pitch. He got 7 swing and misses with it. 3 of his 6 strikeouts were with it. And now with this cutter, like he's got 4 pitches that move in have different shapes, and he can tunnel them. And it's added a new element to him, especially versus right-handed pitching, or right-handed hitters, excuse me. And that's kind of the pitch he goes to versus them. It's like 86 to 90 miles an hour, just short horizontal break, but he has really good feel for it. He'll throw it in the zone. He's comfortable throwing it. When you look at kind of the breakdown of how often he's throwing his pitches, it's actually past his curveball in terms of frequency used. And yeah, I mean, it's just, when you have that pitch in the high 80s, you have your fastball in the low to mid 90s, you have your changeup in the mid 80s, and then you have a curveball at 76 to 78 that you can snap off kind of in your back pocket, which I think really plays up with the utility of it because he can sequence it off his other pitches. It's really good at getting hitters off balance. And even though on its own, it's probably like average, I think it plays better than that because of the utility of it, like the way he can use it in combination with his other pitches. You're talking about a 4-pitch guy with above average command projection. Like that's a legit starting pitching prospect. And, it's interesting to me that with his frame too, like I wouldn't rule out more velo coming. Like I honestly, I
wouldn't
don't
necessarily
think that's crazy.
project it, but it could
No,
happen.
I wouldn't project it, but like I wouldn't rule it out. And even at what he is now, like, especially as a lefty, that's really interesting. You've got a lefty up to 95 with 3 average to better secondary pitches. Like, that's not something you find very often. And honestly, I would not be surprised at all if he's pushing like top 100 nationally. It's by the end of the season. Like that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. Like the ceiling is what's going to kind of like keep him like probably on the lower end or just outside of it. Cause even with all that, it's not like we're not talking about a guy with like multiple 70 pitches or
exactly. I
multiple
was just about to
60s.
say that. Yeah.
But still, like if he's a 55 fastball, 60 changeup, 50 cutter, 50 curveball guy, like that's a guy who can be a number 4. That's a number 4 starter. Like no doubt. So yeah, no, he's been very impressive, and he's really the only guy in the system I feel comfortable or confident saying is a starting pitcher, no doubt.
Yeah,
and
I mean, if you look at
like I think the biggest change this year is like a lot of the other guys, especially in the high minors, who were on that fence, are now pushing very hard towards the reliever door, more so than the starting door.
Well, if you look at it, the other starting pitchers that we have in our top 20, it's Brian Mata, Luis Perales, Brandon Walter, Wickleman Gonzalez, Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, Chris Murphy. The lowest walk rate among them is Brandon Walter at 9.2%. The rest of them are all above 15% for a walk rate, which is way too high compared to Drohan at 4.7%. Walters is especially kind of confounding given that I don't know what you just sorted by, but Walters last year was 3. So I don't know if part of this is just April weather or something, or guys.
So I saw Walter too.
Okay, so why? Because the thing to me is just the problems those guys are having. Oh, I see where he sorted it. Okay, the problems those guys are having. It's just, is it early season stuff or what? Because the stuff isn't that bad necessarily. Mata's still averaging 95.5 on the fastball. Like, there's stuff there. It's command control. Is it just early season jitters or what? I don't know. What'd you see out of Walter?
So I honestly think, and this is, I saw Walter before they started the, what is it, ABS or whatever it's called, the
automatic, robot umps.
Yeah.
ABS.
I'll just say, I don't think Jorge Alfaro catching is doing anyone any favors down there.
It could be. That could be true.
So
Alfaro is actually part of the reason why in my lineup tracker now, I actually track who's catching on the pitcher page.
He was like, it was bad. Like, I felt bad for Walter. I'll just say that he cost Walter, I felt, several strikes in this outing. And it's not as much of an issue, and it might not be as much of an issue now. I haven't seen Walter since the ABS thing started, but in the old, it was bad. But anyway,
for what it's worth, Walter, his first start of the season was with Hamilton. His second start was with Hernandez, actually.
Ooh.
His third start was Alfaro. His fourth start was Hamilton. His fifth start was Alfaro.
Yeah.
And the last Alfaro start was his longest start of the year. Maybe it may or may not have been his best one, but
so I think with Walter, the walk rate's not as concerning to me.
That's not even true. I'm sorry, that's not true. The Hernandez start was the longest one. Good. Sorry.
The biggest concern for me right now is he is not missing bats at all, and like his K rate is, I think, what is it, 14%, 15%, and his whiff rate 14, is 18.6%. That's really low. Like,
yeah, that's among the lowest in the system.
Like, as a point of reference, like Ryan Fernandez, reliever, obviously, is at like 45% almost.
Of the pitchers with at least 6 innings, Walter's swing and miss rate. So that's like swinging strikes compared to swings, not to pitches.
Correct.
Is the 5th lowest in the system.
Which is that's why it's, and for those, if you look, that's why it's different 63. Than baseball. It's different than Baseball Reference for that reason, because Baseball Reference is total pitches.
Yep.
So that's why it's different. But yeah,
it's and I mean, like the guys that are ahead of them,
it's all relievers.
Like, well, Sterling Sharp, but otherwise it's relievers.
Oh no, sorry. I thought you meant ahead of him, like at the top end of the scale.
No, I'm saying the guys that have worse swing and miss rates. It's either like, but then it's like, of the 4 guys with lower swing and miss rates.
We'll tell sinker ballers.
That's what I was just about to say. Theo Denlinger, who's got a 70% ground ball rate.
Yeah.
Gabriel Jackson, who's got a 60% ground ball rate.
Well, and Walter's a sinker baller too, to be fair.
He is. That's true. But, that's a fair point. But his ground ball rate is hovering around 50%, which is good for a ground ball guy.
but still, like it's the wall. It's just you got to miss a little more than that. Like when I saw him, he got, I think he had like 5 strikeouts, which is good, but it was 7 swinging strikes. Like that's just not, and I think most of them, yeah, almost all but 2 of them were against lefties. So that's something I'm going to be monitoring with him. I do think his overall numbers are a little skewed by some bad catching and bad defense. He was getting BABIPs like pretty hard. He was still like, if we saw his like quality of opponent contact numbers, they'd still be really good.
It's weird because his BABIP against is only 316, which is high, but not like he's getting.
But I think if we saw like the batted ball outcomes compared, like like the expected like batting average against, I bet it's much lower than what it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Because
or at least would have been in the game you saw.
Well, I've watched a couple starts on MLB or MLB TV now. Well, I guess. Also fair. But yeah,
like just to say one thing, to throw this in real quick, that infield defense in Worcester, because you've got Dahlbeck moving around.
Yeah,
Goodrum is not a shortstop anymore.
You had Hamilton at short, who's not a shortstop. You had Valdez at second, who's pretty rough.
Yeah,
like it's rough.
Now they've got Sogard in there every day playing second, which has helped. But
yeah, because he's a good defender. But yeah, it's not great. But yeah, Walter, he was like, and this is the thing. I think we have to just like accept the velo's not coming back. I don't think like he's going to be 90 to 92. He'll hit 93 on occasion, but
he's settled in around there.
Yeah. He'll throw a 2-seam like 88 to 90. Change up 79 to 81, slider 79 to 81, kind of like they're both in the same velo band. The thing that was kind of disappointing in this start was he just had no feel for his changeup at all. Like I put a 40 on it, it just wasn't good. Like he didn't get a single swing and miss with it. He just basically shelved it for the second half of the outing, just didn't even throw it.
Yeah.
It was cold and rainy too, so like that kind of stuff can happen in the first month, but I think a good way to describe it is he's just got a very small margin for error. Like he's not going to outstuff people. He's got to command and get movement on the ball. And if he's not commanding all of his pitches and, being able to locate them, he's in trouble. And that's why, with his stuff and like that pitch mix, he's got to be very precise. And he just hasn't been that precise to start the season. And like, I still think there's time to figure it out, but I think that, we got to be like realistic with the ceiling here is like, best case, you're talking about like a number 5 starter probably.
And it just seems like, I don't know, maybe it's just me like having seen this story play out, right? Where guy gets to AAA and it kind of gets less exciting. And then just where does it go from here? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, especially because he's what, 26 years old too.
So. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we talked about. He's not a typical 26-year-old, but it's not like this is the guy where there's a ton more projection here. I mean, he's a major leaguer probably. It's just, is it as a starter? I think the role there might be in the bullpen too. Yeah. I mean, and again, looking at the other guys in that sort of strata. I mean, Wickelman Gonzalez has really struggled with control. He had a good start tonight, but he's got a walk. He had a walk rate entering tonight over 30%. Elmer Rodriguez Cruz is still, he's 6. He's like what, 18, and he's in Salem. 18 or 19. He's gonna give him some time to figure it out. Chris Murphy, to me, it's not exciting at this point, honestly. He's walking too many guys. He's not getting ahead in counts. And then after that, you get a group of relievers that are very interesting that we like. The Chris Troys of the world, the Alex Hoppies of the world, the Luis Guerreros. Did I ever say him? Chris Troy. They've got some very interesting relievers. Dellinger is interesting as a ground ball guy.
But at the end of the day, they're relievers.
But they're relievers, right? And there's only so much ceiling there. I mean, that's what we've seen with Zach Kelly. Interesting reliever turns into a middle reliever who's still a middle reliever sometimes. Like,
I mean, we'll get to when we talk about Portland, I think, but I do think the 2 guys that have a chance outside of like Mata, who we'll talk about with Worcester, like Guerrero and Fernandez, I don't hate being aggressive on in terms of pushing them up. I hope they get put on there up in Worcester by like
the Worcester bullpen is not nearly as good as it was last year.
That was what I was gonna. Do you want to jump into Worcester now? And we
sure, because the Worcester bullpen. We didn't talk about hitters.
Oh, like well, we can get to it.
We can get to it later. That's fine.
Yeah.
The Worcester bullpen last year had like at any given time 6 guys that I was cool with calling up to the majors if needed.
That was my biggest takeaway from seeing them like a bunch this first stretch is
This year.
I didn't think there was not a single guy I would trust in the major leagues in that bullpen. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like I saw Politi was bad. Like
Politi started the year as the closer and got demoted, and they put Shugart into that role.
Well, and Politi, I think the concern to me is like his velo is way down. Like it's down 1.4 miles an hour from last year. Like that's concerning to me. Like what happened there? He went from like 95 or almost 95 miles an hour to 93.4. Like,
yeah, 93 is not what got him picked in Rule 5.
No. So, he got picked in Rule 5 because he was like 95, 96. Now he's 92, 93. Like, that's concerning to me. And yeah, as you said, like the rest of the guys, they either just don't really miss bats or they walk too many guys or they do both. And that's just a bad combo when you're talking about like guys like, Mosqueda, Taylor Broadway, Shugart.
Broadway's been pretty disappointing.
Joe Jacks.
Jakes, yeah.
Like even like Matt Dermody has done like some interesting stuff, but like,
Dermody and North Godinho are being used as the kind of
but they start now, yeah. So it's
they're the depth starters. They're not really. I mean, when you get put into that role, you're not a guy they're considering for an MLB role.
Which takes me to Brian Mata, because his season has obviously been very disappointing. Would you say it's been disappointing thus far?
It has been disappointing in not standing out. I don't know that he's been bad yet.
I mean, he has 19 walks in 20 innings, but
yeah, I mean the command. I mean, the thing is that's been his bugaboo for a while.
Yeah,
is the command and control, and I kind of wonder. It's interesting too because it kind of piqued our interest when last week, and it turned out that this was just because of how
the
schedule worked. But he was going to pitch in relief.
Yeah, well, and that takes me to
rained out.
He's out of options after this year.
This is his last year. Yeah, I think you get to midseason, and at that point you pull the trigger.
At some point, if he doesn't show pretty substantial gains in the rotation, you have to just try him out in the bullpen because, like, if he's going to be on the team, he's going to be in the majors next year. So you gotta see what you have there. And given the struggles of the rest of that bullpen, and obviously now they have like Ortiz down there, who like. I know he gets like.
I'm fine with Ort as the AAA depth guy.
Exactly.
I have no problem with
if you have to call him up for a week and then he goes back down, fine, whatever.
They've got Justin Garza now.
I've never seen him, so I don't know.
Well, he just got activated tonight.
Got it. But I mean, he's got some MLB experience, right? Yep, he does. He pitched with Cleveland in 2021, so like we'll see what they have with him. But yeah, like. There's not a lot of depth there for guys who can help at the major league level. So Mata kind of like needs to figure it out pretty quickly, whether it be in the rotation or in the bullpen.
Yep, 100%. I guess let's just keep it going with the pitchers and then we'll double back with the hitters. In Portland, again, it's the Shane Drohan show. Brian Van Bell has been very good this month, Ian. To me, though, I mean, it's a average fastball is 90, it's below 91. Without a lot of spin, does not induce many swinging strikes. I think I'm just skeptical until I see it. It's a good rising fastball. But he gets a lot of extension towards the plate, but I mean, it's an ERA a full 2.5 runs below his FIP. I don't know how sustainable that is. It's nice to see. I could see him getting to AAA this year.
Yeah.
Which I think will be a proving ground for him. It'll be like a put up or shut up time at that point where it's like, hey, if he's doing it at AAA, then he's doing it at AAA. But I don't know. CJ Liu, he goes by CJ now. It looks like his velo has ticked back up, which is nice.
But he's a reliever though. Like I don't.
But he's a reliever. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's a lot of guys who are interesting as relievers there. And we've talked about guys that you've seen in Manchester there, like how you liked Ryan Miller. I know we talked about that on a past episode. Brendan Nail has been interesting from the left side. It has been for a minute now. We mentioned Theo Dellinger, killing all of the worms.
And Fernandez and Guerrero, the top two, obviously. And then like Jacob Webb is like semi-interesting. He just walks way too many guys.
Yeah. I mean, incredible extension. Like,
yeah. No. I mean, well, he's also massive.
He's huge.
Like his fastball has really good characteristics, but it's just like he just doesn't throw enough strikes, and he does not miss nearly enough bats for someone with the stuff that he has. But yeah,
yeah.
But I look at that team, and at least like you have the key guy is Drohan. Like,
I was looking at the wrong row. Yeah, you're right.
He's the one that everyone is going to be having to. That's the guy you have to watch with that. You know, his starts are almost must watch now because
this is Drohan. Yeah,
because the biggest thing that we talked about endlessly is their inability to develop starting pitching prospects. Like if he can figure it out, that's just such a massive development for that team.
Huge.
So I mean, him and then as I said, like the bullpen guys are kind of the other guys to watch, and I think that's why if they've been I think the most successful affiliate so far this season. I want to say. There's 16-5 coming in tonight. I don't know how they did tonight. I'm gonna guess they got rained out though.
They did. They got rained out.
Yeah, shocker.
They're in
but if you look, like a lot of it has been because of their pitching. Like for the season, 2.88 ERA, 1.16 WHIP with 193 strikeouts and 190 innings. Like as a team, that's really good. Like, so
I could see a lot of those guys replacing guys in Worcester by the end of the year.
It's a pretty interesting staff, and I think it's kind of like made up for the kind of mixed bag you've had at the plate with the lineup, which I don't know, how you want to do this if we want to keep going with pitchers.
Yeah, just keep going with all the pitchers. That's how we've been doing it. Going down to Greenville, I mean, we mentioned Wickelman Gonzalez walking way too many guys, and after that, I mean, Angel Bastardo has been really interesting. He's going to make a big jump in the May rankings update. Has had a very good month. Very interesting, like getting a lot of swinging strikes.
He's 19 innings, 26 strikeouts, 9 walks. ERA is like walks, 6, but whatever. I mean, ERA and WHIP, I'm not like we've talked about it. Minor league numbers are not the be all end all. I think it's
his ERA is like almost 3 full runs higher than his FIP.
Yeah, it's also
everything else is interesting
because he's had like basically like 2 bad starts and 2 good starts. So if he only had 4 starts, like. So, but I think the big one, he had that 6 inning, 11 strikeouts, which was pretty eye opening. But yeah, no, he's definitely interesting. I think the stuff has been impressed before. He's someone I think we saw last year in spring training and liked. And he kind of had a pretty inconsistent year. So
I think I saw him in Salem last year, and it was the same thing. I mean, he's a thrower. He was a thrower then, at least.
Yeah. But I think with them, the weird thing is like the guys who've kind of been the best are like Isaac Coffey. Like it's kind of like the unheralded.
Well, I mean, in Coffey's the low velo sidearm.
Yeah, he's
guy,
like a
short stride guy.
Yeah, it's funky.
Yeah, it's
because I remember I saw him in spring training, and it was like it's like 89 miles an hour.
Doesn't walk anyone, and he's striking a lot of guys out because they have no idea.
It's the kind of profile that works in the low minors, and you need to see it in AA before you start believing in it. But like you look at he's probably, I would say he's been their best pitcher this year. But then it's again
results wise.
But then it's like Juan Daniel Encarnacion has been semi-interesting. Like his velo gains that we saw in spring training have carried over to the regular season, but he still walks way too many guys. Doesn't have good consistency with the secondary. He's probably a reliever. Like the rest of the team is like they've had some good bullpen performances.
Yeah, I mean, like Alex Hoppe is. I think he might have the highest average fastball in the system. First month. He's also
walking
too many guys.
Yeah.
Right. We've heard this one before.
Or Chris Troy has probably been like the most impressive reliever there. He's 18 strikeouts in 8 innings, which is kind of crazy.
But he also
has 8 walks. Yeah. So it's like, it's the pitching and you'll see it's a theme. Like there's just not that many guys who have stood out, but like there's guys with intriguing characteristics or traits, and it's just kind of harnessing it is going to be the key for development this year.
And then down in Salem, I mean, we were keeping our eye on Perales coming into the year, and he hasn't really had that breakout yet.
Well, no, I mean the
characteristics look good.
The underlying stuff is all good. It's the on-field performance is not there yet, and like Perales is like that. Jettix and Paez is another one where the underlying
410 batting average against on Perales, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to sustain. But like Jettix and Paez is the same thing. Like the underlying stuff is good, but
the velo's not.
But he's not a velo guy. We've kind of talked about that with him
he's a
before.
Sinker guy.
He's a sinker curveball guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Elmer kind of the same thing. Like
Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. The obviously the best pitchers there have been Dalton Rogers and Nathan Landry, and Nathan Landry got promoted today, the first official promotion of the 2023 season. So if you had that in your pool, congratulations.
Yeah. Right.
But
really quick about that, if I can, Ian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is when you look at Landry getting the early promotion, and guys like Isaac Coffey, Jarrett Godman, and who was the third? Oh, Alex Hoppy, all going straight to Greenville to start their first full season after being college draftees last year. With short season going away, and we said this was going to happen, the levels have kind of expanded to fill the vacuum. And these college guys now, you look at Chase Mydroff on the offensive side starting in Greenville. Like, the college guys who can handle it are going to go straight to high A. That's going to be normal. That's not going to be surprising at all. I think we're going to start projecting that more often in our next year projections when guys get drafted. It's what you're going to see if they have room on the roster and the guys show that they're ready for it in camp. They're not going to be afraid to push guys that hard because it's just that's what the level's going to dictate. It's the talent equivalent of what low A used to be back when you had short season. So that's why you see a guy like Landry get the first promotion, because he showed he was ready. I mean, the stuff is good. The K rate was very good. The walk rate was fine-ish, but it's not like, the outcomes were dominant. He didn't give up any runs. The FIP was 185. He was good, but it wasn't like he was their top prospect either. It's just that's what made it appropriate. Sorry for the tangent. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And I also think with Landry, though, there's something to, you need guys who can throw strikes at Salem. And I honestly do wonder, he's obviously been their most consistent pitcher this year. And when you look at a lot of the other arms there, they need guys like that there, frankly. So
yeah, but that's why, you also have to do what's right by the player to promote him too. I mean, making sure
that's
Salem's
why,
got,
that's
why they have more
already.
arms there too.
But that's why he's also been promoted already.
Right.
Right.
I mean, if you look at it though, they have I guess they're rolling 4-man bench in Greenville too.
Yeah.
On a 30-man roster. So they've got a lot of arms there. But they're running a 6-man rotation too, which is interesting.
You need it in the minor league level though, especially in the low minors. And
yes.
Yeah, you look at the Salem, I think the rotation was the interesting part to start the season. And that kind of played out like that, as you said, Paralis. And I think Paralis and Noah Dean have kind of struggled.
Dean has really struggled.
Just walks.
Dean's got a 33% walk rate, which is just not.
No, I mean he has 12 walks in 11 innings or something this year.
Yeah, he's only thrown 8 2/3
or whatever.
So,
well, he might have 12 walks in 8 innings then.
Right.
Actually, I have it right here. He has 16 walks in 8 innings.
Okay.
He also has 18 strikeouts in 8 innings, though. So
there you go. I mean, that's what's going to happen with him and Rogers. They're almost going to need to get promoted to force them to throw more strikes.
No, Rogers, I mean, it's been fine. He's got 18 strikeouts in 9.2 innings. He only has 5 walks. I think he also had it's one bad outing.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think Rogers should get promoted. I think Dean should spend the whole year there, frankly, or at least, a good portion.
Well, he may or may not spend the whole year there. I mean, it's a 417 average against, so he's getting BABIP'd a little, but it's also been hard contact.
Dean has 16 walks in 8 innings. I don't think the other stuff matters, really. He's not going to get promoted until he throws strikes.
Yep, that's fair.
But yeah, Rogers has been good. Landry's been good. Out of the bullpen, it's Felix Cepeda, but it's all these guys are walking too many guys.
Yeah.
So it's been a mixed bag, and we'll kind of see. I think another month will give us I think some things are going to level out. We kind of saw tonight, Wickelman Gonzalez, who obviously has really struggled with Greenville to start the year, had an excellent start tonight. It's 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk. So I think these things will kind of sort themselves out, and we'll start to have a better picture after another month of action, especially with the pitchers.
For sure. All right, turning to the hitters, Ian. To me, again, it's tough to really take too much out of 1 month of the season, but Nick York is going to be our player of the month. Him hitting has been a big deal to me. I want to see him keep it up. He's hitting the ball very hard. The exit velocities look good. He's not chasing pitches, which is good. We'd like to see him maybe make some more contact in the zone than he has. Maybe I would. So that needs to improve, but it's been a very good first month. Other than that, everyone is mostly just kind of treading water. Edinson Paulino's had kind of a rough time of it. He's been dropped in the Greenville order, but everyone else is just kind of more or less holding serve, I think. What has been kind of the overall takeaway for you?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that York kind of having a bounce back is encouraging. Um,
Hmm.
but other than that, it's just kind of like the guys in the low minors like Blaze and Anthony are holding their own, which is pretty much all you can ask for is 18, 19-year-olds and
Yeah, they
making
could
their
spend the
first
whole
pro
year in
season.
Salem and it would be fine.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Myers, same thing, like holding his own, like he's fine.
Hmm.
I think Paulinho is going to level out. I'm pretty sure he's had like a good stretch the last couple of days because it's just hard with like 80 plate appearances or so
Yeah, what are you gonna take from
to
that?
read too much into it. So
Yep.
yeah, I think though that the only like the guys I'm kind of watching who I think could get an early season promotion, like the one that stands out to me looking at Greenville is Nathan Hickey. Um, I
It's just the
wonder
thing
if
is catching.
the defense might hold him back, but
Well, the
bat
defense and
wise,
the fact that promoting a catcher involves working with new pitchers.
right.
So I
But I
just
think
don't. I
I
think
think
that's why you see all those guys promoted mid-year.
yeah, it's just bad wise. I do think he's ready for a AA test.
Yep.
Um,
I think that's probably about right.
but other than that, like yeah, I think kind of like maybe Meadroth is kind of doing what you expect of a polished college hitter. It's
Yeah,
just
Chase Mydroth is a guy we got, and
Meadroth,
and
sorry.
no, the thing too. Let me just jump in because there's two guys we got a ton of emails about. So let's just take them on right now, actually, because you led into it. Is Chase Mydroth in High A and David Hamilton in Triple A. We'll start with Mydroth. I mean, to me, Mydroth, like it's a great approach at the plate. He's seeing more than 5 pitches per plate appearance, which probably leads the system
No, it
uh,
definitely leads the system. It's not even a
by
question.
more than like half a pitch per plate appearance, which is a lot when the range is between 3.5 and 5, 0.18. He doesn't chase, not hitting the ball super hard. Like it's okay. Um, it's fine. It's good. I like it. It's not making me put him in the top 20.
Well, no, because I mean the issue with him, there's a couple things. Is he's tiny. He's like 5'7", 5'8".
Mm-hmm.
There's no projection in the body. He's a second baseman
Second
only
base. Well, he's
probably,
playing second and third. Yeah.
but he's probably a second baseman. Maybe he
Yeah,
can make it at third.
he's
He's
playing
not.
third so that Paulino can play
I mean,
short,
the
can
most
play
important thing
second.
is he's not a shortstop. Like
Yes,
that.
he's
That's
not
the
playing short at
separator.
all. Yep.
And there's just not like just not a ton of upside with a profile like that unless
Hmm.
you're like a unicorn at the plate with your batted ball skills, and that's just, he's not that.
Right.
So yeah, like he's also yeah, he's just very polished. So it's not that surprising to see him, kind of doing what he's doing. And the other one I'm guessing you were going to mention is David Hamilton.
Well, I did. Yeah. Yeah. So David Hamilton, and especially in the context of a lot of people didn't understand why Valdez got the call up instead of Hamilton. Hamilton had his, we talked about token opening day,
Stretch.
balling out, and then a very good first week, second week. And he's been pretty good, but like he has tailed off significantly. I think some of that is definitely regression to the mean. He's definitely hitting the ball harder this year, but I don't think he's a vastly different player this year. He's going to move up. He's going to move into our top 20 probably in the May update, but like yeah, I mean, I guess I'll throw to you for what your observations have been in person and in the numbers.
So yeah, I've seen him several times this season, and the defense is not very good in my opinion at shortstop.
Mhm.
It's a poor arm. Like, could he fake it for one game? Sure, but like, I don't think he's an option if you want someone to play there like 3 or 4 times a week.
Sure.
And um,
But then meanwhile, you've got Valdez comes up and he is playing second. So in that context, I think a lot of people were curious why he wasn't the guy, even if the
yeah,
defense is the problem.
yeah. But I think that when you look at the plate, like as you said, since that opening day stretch, since April 12th, which was after the first like series in a bit, he's hitting 203, 304, 339. Like it's not like there's just not a lot of impact with the bat. Like I know he's hitting like his hard hit rate or is up. He's hitting the ball slightly harder, but it's still like a below average hard hit rate, below average exit velocities, chases too much. Like there's just it's not the sexiest profile. Like, could I think it could be a useful bench player? 100%. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Can
But
run.
yeah, pinch runner. Like
He should play in every single game that is not a blowout.
he
Put
is
it that
super
way.
fast. Like, and he could really help a team in that regard. But I just like I understand why you went with Valdez instead of Hamilton, because like Valdez can really hit right-handed pitching, and that's what they need when they have Arroyo to hit lefties. And it just fits what they want better than Hamilton at this point in the kind of his development. So, yeah, I think that Hamilton, like, it's a nice story. And again, I know he had a great, I think he homered, like he almost hit for the cycle or something tonight.
Yeah.
So the numbers are going to get skewed again. But it's like he needs more time in the minors. He needs to get more consistency defensively. He needs to get more consistent at the plate. And even when he does come up, I just hope the expectations are that like he's a solid bench piece. Like he can be a valuable member of the 26-man roster. But I just hope, I wouldn't be hoping that he's going to be someone who's like an everyday guy, because that's kind of setting him up for not success, which is obviously not what we want here.
Can we go down to Portland?
Yeah, I mean, with the rest of Worcester, it's a pretty orgy lineup, frankly.
Yeah.
Like Willier
really
Abreu, we probably should mention.
Yeah, Willier's been pretty good. Small sample, but
he's really the only, like when I saw him, he was one. It was one of his first game back, but he's pretty. He can hit the ball hard. I like his approach. He's going to strike out a decent amount just cause, but like he's okay. Nick Sogard's kind of interesting as like an OR guy. Fitzy's doing his thing where he, it's aggressive, but he hits the ball super hard. Like there's with Duran up, and Duran was the big one. Like Duran's numbers down there are crazy. Like he had like a 57% hard hit rate, which is, and that's why we were saying like, you can't, like he was hitting like what 211 or something when he was called up. Like, and you got to look, or he was hitting 195, excuse me, when he was called up.
Oh,
like
wow. That's
yeah. So it's, you got to look beyond the numbers there, but it's fine. I mean, in terms of impacting the major league team this year, like I think the only real guys you're looking at is Dahlbeck, maybe not impacting, but like in the picture for a call up, it's really just Dahlbeck and Hamilton. I don't think Abreu is someone they're really counting on for this year. And, in terms of that regard, I think that Dahlbeck and Hamilton both can play a role. As long as it's kind of limited but they're both limited, and we've talked about their limitations. I think Portland, frankly, is a more interesting lineup to talk about if we're going to look at.
And that's why I was going to ask you, say Don Rafaela. You actually had the tweet today, so I'll just throw it to you for your thoughts, because I think you sum it up really well on what concerns us about him. And what has gone well this year, I should say, because it's not all been concerning. I mean, the hard hit rates you just mentioned, like he's hitting the ball really hard when he hits it, but like there's some stuff that's really concerning there.
His stuff, his overall line, he got off to a slow start. He's now up to 303 through 338, 408, 4 walks, 20 K is kind of like what you expect with him. But like, as you said, the good news is like his hard hit rate has, gone up from 27.2% when he was in Portland last year to 44% this year.
That's a big jump.
His like high end exit velos are up like 6 miles an hour. So or 5 miles an hour, almost at 5.5. That's a pretty big jump. Chase rate is still the same. And that's like, we talk about it over and over again. It's all comes down to swing decisions with him. Good news is when he's making contact now, it's harder contact. It's quality contact. That's very encouraging. There's very few hitters who can sustain a 42% K rate. We're seeing the impact it's having on
chase rate. Chase rate, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, 42% K rate is not sustainable either. No. You saw with Bobby Dahlbeck.
True statement. Very good. Very true statement.
But like when you look at like Javi Baez, like been one of the worst hitters in baseball the last couple of years. That's the guys you're talking about up in the 40s for chase rate. And it's just, it's hard. Like when you combine that with he's not making as much contact in the zone either this year. He's seeing fewer pitches. Like it's nice that he's impacting the baseball more and his defense is better. And I think that that's translating in terms of the overall line, because his ISO is like way down. He's not hitting as many homers. I think he's just hitting harder line drives, which is definitely encouraging. But that chase rate is just terrifying. And until that's something like he's got to get that down into the 30s before like for him to reach his ceiling. And that's just, I'm concerned that like it's easier said than done. It's hard to like change your approach that drastically.
Another guy who's probably a major leaguer.
No, he's definitely a major leaguer.
Some role,
but like, yeah.
It's what role
the floor ceiling with him is there's a pretty substantial gap there depending on what he does, how
for
his
a
hip
double
tool
A guy.
develops. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. We mentioned York. I mean, the rest of the guys, I kind of want to let another month go by before we read too much into it. So I don't know if there's anyone else there that you've seen that you really wanted to call out, Ian.
I would just say like Matthew Lugo, he doesn't walk at all, like ever, but he had some good swings when I was there. Same with Philip Sykes, kind of like him. York, as you said, is kind of the standout. It's nice to see him
Yeah.
bouncing back. But yeah, it's just it's early. Like I don't want to read too much into it with the hitters. It's just, you know, there's been some good things, there's been some bad things. I think in another month we'll have a much clearer picture of kind of who's taking a step forward, who's taking a step back, and who's kind of like holding steady right now.
Greenville, Marcelo Meyer is kind of holding serve. Paulino, the results haven't been good so far. Like I mentioned, he did drop from first to sixth in the order down there, but he's not chasing at a bad rate. He's making contact in the zone. He just needs to make harder contact. And some of that is just going to be him continuing to try and fill that frame out, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him really. I mean, this is like he's I think a good example. He's kind of the reverse Hamilton, if I can get his game logs to come up.
In that he started slower and he's hit better lately.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, finally have been able to get them. But yeah, he was like 1 for something. I mean, his first 2 series, he was like 5 for 39 or 5 for 36.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, he's, this includes tonight, or he's hitting 308, 342. So like,
okay,
it's just a small sample with him. Like he's 12 for his last 39 after that rough stretch. So I'm not too worried with him. I just think, you know, the ceiling's somewhat limited by his size, but I still like the bat. When you look at the other hitters, like, as you said, Myers kind of just holding serve. Like he's been fine, you know, 254, 375, 388. Striking out a little too much for my liking, but he's walking. Major, what's his name? Mydroth. We talked about
Mydroth. Yes, it's the droth that you possess. It's Mydroth.
Nathan Hickey, I kind of like. I think that his start is encouraging. He's got a good approach. Hits the ball pretty hard. Like some interesting stuff there. I guess we should talk about Blaze Jordan because he's obviously, I think he homered again tonight, or he's homered 2 straight games coming in tonight, something like that. And his season line so far, he's at 284, 338, 514. But there's still the underlying stuff. There's still some red flags there. High chase, misses in zone a decent amount. So
doesn't have any pitches this year that are giving him trouble. Like he's hitting pitches, you know, with spin or off speed or with velo.
Still like small sample,
but
I mean, he's just someone I need.
He's not seeing a lot of pitches per plate appearance.
I need to see him in Double-A. Like at the end of the day, like I'm afraid that he's in like the Alex Manelis, Nico Cavadas camp of like,
Alex Manelis, man,
slower bat that
Cavadas too,
that can overpower high A pitching and punish mistakes, but gets exposed to Double-A. That's kind of my concern with him. And yeah, I mean, I think that the Greenville team is kind of like the guys we expect to do good are doing good. The guys who we didn't are not, and it's kind of kind of a mixed bag.
Salem, on a daily basis, one of the most fun lineups to follow. Been a lot to see down there. Miguel Blaze has been fine. Good.
He's been fine. Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to see it tick up a little bit more, but we mentioned it. What was going to happen to him is what's happening is that he's getting a steady diet of off speed.
Yeah, he's seeing
no one's throwing him fastballs, and he's having to, and is to some degree adjusting.
Yeah, I mean,
he'll continue to.
And at the end of the day, I think we said, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Miguel Blaze was hitting like 180 by May and then hit like, 280 the rest of the season. Like, I would say so far he's actually done more than I expected there. I think it's going to take some time for him to adjust. I think that, the league is adjusting to him a little bit, as you said, with the way he's being pitched. But I'm not worried about him long term. I think he'll be fine.
Meanwhile,
Roman Anthony, what?
No, I was saying, meanwhile, Anthony.
Roman Anthony, like, if you look at his numbers, not good, or fine, whatever. He's 200, 263, 250. He's not really hitting the ball in the air that much. But, the underlying stuff is fantastic. Like, he doesn't chase. He rarely misses in the zone. He hits the ball super hard very frequently. I think he just needs to add more lift to his swing. That's kind of the big thing. It seems like he's hitting a lot of like line drives or ground balls. He's not just elevating the ball yet, but
when he hits it, he is hitting it very hard. It's just that he's not getting,
the outcomes aren't there yet, but exactly. There's a lot of positive stuff there. I think when you look at the rest of the lineup, it's interesting that like
Team
none of the
Mulligan,
well,
Team Red Shirt.
oh well, what I was gonna say is none of the guys are really hitting slugging, which is not surprising because
No,
Salem
because they're
and
all
that league is
babies.
also that league is just like the ballparks are not good for hitting.
Yeah, but they're all either 20-year-old IFAs or high school,
There are a bunch of
19 to
guys.
20-year-old
There are a bunch
IFAs
of
or other high
guys
school kids.
who need to hit he needed a couple more seasons in the strength and conditioning program.
Yes,
I think that
a
like
lot of two-digit 90th percentile exit velocities.
yeah, which is I mean that's fine.
It's
That's what a
fine,
lot
but
of
I'm
it is.
just saying, like it's what it is. It's young guys that need to get bigger.
Yeah. So I think that like again, it's let's check back in another month as the weather gets warmer, the guys get more kind of more settled at the level. I would shout out Luis Ravello though, like he's hitting well coming in tonight. I think he had a grand slam tonight. He's 295, 389, 426. So when you combine like we've all said the defense is pretty good with him. If he can hit a little bit, that gets super interesting. And
Yep.
He's got to cut down on um he's definitely he's got to add some strength, and I think doing that will help him miss less in the zone. Like that little bit of there's a little bat drag there, but I like it's encouraging he's not chasing very much, and that kind of the results are there in the overall stat line.
Yep.
So he's of that kind of that second group. Him and Alan Castro are the two that I'm keeping my eye on the most, more so than some of the other guys there.
All right. Well, I think that's probably the month that was. The other things we want to mention, I mean, obviously Ryan Fernandez is back playing. Brian Abonasi finally reported to Greenville recently after opening the season and extended spring training following some visa issues. I'm very interested to see how the playing time is going to break out there. I think you're going to see a lot of guys running through the DH spot and getting days off in that infield group of Mydroth, Bonasi, and Polino playing around Meyer, who's obviously the priority guy there. Other things of note we want to mention, it's NFL draft time and some football related Red Sox notes. The Red Sox recently released from being on their restricted list, NFL, I guess, quarterback / tight end Felipe Franks, who they signed out of college. And if he ever decided he wanted to go with baseball, I don't know if there's a particular reason why they released him or not, but they did. And then in terms of other guys pursuing football, former rookie ball level outfielder David Durden was signed as a undrafted free agent by the Cowboys, and a guy they did not sign, Thayer Thomas, who's a wideout, signed with the Vikings as a undrafted free agent. So a lot of football stuff happening there. Ian, anything else before we go to emails? I think we hit on most of the stuff
I
we
would just say
wanted to
like
talk about.
in terms of noteworthy injuries since we last recorded,
Yes,
Gilberto Jimenez is placed on the DL
today. Yep.
Yeah, we talked about Bayo earlier. Aaron Perry's hurt again, which is
Jedickson Paez went on the IL, although they're hoping that's not going to be a long one.
Yeah, but there's, I mean, so far, knock on wood, the minor league affiliates have been pretty healthy, so that's been encouraging too.
Yep. All right, getting to emails again. If you want to email us, hit us up at podcast@soxprospects.com because we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. We get a lot of them, Ian, so let's try and speed round through some of these. First off, comes from Christian. He says, "Hey guys, it seems like there's no one in the system right now that Ian likes more than Luis Guerrero, not even Blaze or Meyer." I'm presuming that's a little tongue in cheek. Now, I've only been following you all for the past couple of years, so I'm curious, Ian, who was the last prospect that you were this excited about? Maybe he's not being tongue in cheek. And what specifically makes Guerrero such an exciting prospect for you? Thanks. I think part of this is fueled by Alex Spear good-naturedly teasing you a little bit about Luis Guerrero being your guy. But I guess just really quick, what makes Guerrero a guy that you're really intrigued by, Ian?
It's a quality fastball. He's got 2 good secondary pitches. He's got good velo. It's an awesome story. Local kid. Like, I don't know. It's fun to me. The part of the fun of this is going out and, seeing guys and seeing someone you've never seen before and being like very impressed or blown away and kind of like putting them on the radar. And Guerrero's someone, we saw last year, he wasn't on anyone's radar. We kind of bumped him way up. And then this season, he's finally, getting the recognition I think that he earned with his performance. Because at the end of the day, like he's the one going out there and playing, and he's worked extremely hard. Crazy good makeup, and he's put himself in a position, and he's obviously overcome a lot, as Alex wrote in a story when he wrote him up about with his leg injury.
Read that story about Luis Guerrero. It's cool. It's really cool.
He's overcome a lot to put himself in a position that he is. So, yeah, I mean, and frankly, he's like a really interesting relief prospect, and that's something they need. So,
Yeah.
I think that's part of it too. Yeah, in terms of, and what was the other part? Guys that I liked.
No, well, I mean, it's guys that last prospect that you were this excited about, but I think that's vastly overstating how much you're into Luis Guerrero.
Yeah, I mean, I like him on like the reliever scale. I mean, if you want to talk about like
you don't actually like him more than
probably
Meyer
like, I don't know,
Blaze.
Devers.
That's
Like there's no, you're not like, it's a reliever. Like the ceiling is limited there. There's yeah.
The next email is from Ethan, who says after the extensive Valdez and Hamilton discussion on the last podcast, can the Red Sox really afford to carry both of these guys on the 40-man? And at some point down the road, if both develop into bench guys, can you really have both taking up spots on a 4-man bench? Doesn't seem like either have great chances to be everyday players. Ian, I think that's basically prospects in that, future value 4.5 or future value 45 guys who are in that teens range.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily have to make it as Red Sox to be useful.
No, and that's one of those things, you let it work itself out. Like maybe one of them outplays their production, turns into an everyday guy. Maybe, I honestly can see a path with both on the bench too. Like you can easily carry a left-handed hitting infielder and then like a pinch runner. Like teams do that all the time. So I do think at a 4-man bench you can carry both. But I don't think that given the roster construction, they're gonna, unless barring significant injuries, you're gonna reach a point where you have to have both of them up this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's like saying you have 2 shortstops. Like, let's let them both make the majors as shortstops. Like, don't make it a problem until it is. Our next email, Ian, is from Mike, who asks, he's curious about the value of switch hitting in a prospect, assuming that the prospect is good from both sides of the plate. Would it be considered a real needle mover where, say, someone like Miguel Blaze would jump Tristan Casas or Marcelo Meyer, or is it something that doesn't get weighed too heavily? I mean, I think kind of the poster boy for this is Gilberto Jimenez, who took up switch hitting, but I don't think you're not going to pump a guy up because he's a switch hitter.
No, like, because I mean, for it to matter, if you're telling me Miguel Blaze was like had the same upside from both the right and left side of the plate, like, yeah, he becomes more interesting. But it's not. Yeah, rarely is it going to be like a separator with that, because you'd have to be really, like, a lot of guys like Blaze, for example, he can hit lefties, he can hit righties. Like, it's not that big an issue.
That's what I was about to say. The bigger issue to me is, like, do you have a weakness from one side of the plate?
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a switch hitter. I just care if, as a righty, you don't hit righties, or as a lefty,
or if you're a lefty.
Like
Valdez is a good example. If Valdez is a switch hitter who could hit lefties, yes, he becomes more interesting.
Yes. But it's because he can hit lefties, not because he's a switch hitter.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. Yep. The only other thing where that might matter too is it might help you play into your speed a little bit more if you're a fast guy, because you can if you can hit from the left side of the plate. All right, next question is from Brian, who says, "Hey guys, Tristan Casas has been struggling. Watching the games, I find he's putting in a lot of good at bats. His scouting report on many sites showed him as a power over hit guy with good plate discipline, but as of this email, says a slash line at the time, underlying metrics show there should be some positive regression. But how concerned are you about his long-term prospects? It's a small. Is this a small sample size overreaction, or do we have to rethink what should be expected of him, i.e., Spencer Torkelson?" I think we've covered that, Ian. I just wanted to make clear that kind of last part of, like,
I also don't think you want to be comparing someone to Spencer Torkelson right now, because Spencer Torkelson kind of isn't good. So
no, that's what he's saying, is that we need to rethink what's expected of him, like Spencer Torkelson.
Okay, gotcha.
He's using it negatively.
No, not yet. I mean, Spencer Torkelson has significantly more major league experience,
and he was a college guy. I mean, he was probably drafted older than Casas is now.
No, so, not right now.
Yep. Our next question is from Joseph, who says, "What is the best case promotion timeline for Miguel Blaze this season? Could he make Double-A? Sincerely, Joseph." First of all, no, there's no chance he's going to make Double-A at this point.
There's no chance.
He might make Greenville.
Yeah, I would say
the case is he gets to Greenville in August.
I was maybe say, like late July and beginning of August is what we get to Greenville would be best case.
And I sincerely doubt that would happen, and I'm not sure it would be best for his development, honestly. Next email comes from Drew. He says, "I know it's too early to be thinking about this for virtually anyone, but in my defense, I wanted to ask before the season and simply forgot. In-season promotions are one of the most exciting things for prospect fans because they serve to simultaneously affirm that their prospect status warrants the jump to the next level most of the time, while also bringing about that suspense of whether or not they can handle the increased challenge. Structure this however you think is best, but I think it would be cool if each of you rattled off estimates on how likely it is that each of the top 10 to 15 prospects get mid-season promotions, and maybe highlight a few guys lower down who could push for a jump, or some you think would benefit from staying at a level all year. Thanks for the great content. And I think I'll just maybe propose the quick and dirty version of this, Ian, of guys in, like, what did you say, top 10 to 15 who might get mid-season promotions, and just kind of to predict who might move up during the year. I guess just going down the list, just quick thumbs up or thumbs down on whether a mid-season promotion is possible for them, Ian. All right, Marcelo Meyer, I think possible.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
he's not blocked. He's in a crowded infield. If he's playing well enough, I could see him going to Portland. Miguel Blaise, if it happens, it's in September.
Yeah, I mean, for him to get promoted midseason, he would have to be hitting like 400 probably. Like, he would just have to be destroyed.
I don't know about 400, but he'd have to be.
You know what I mean? He'd have to force it, but yeah. I would say unlikely.
Ceddanne Rafaela.
Sure. I mean, at some point, you just have to challenge him because, like, the same issues are going to be there in AAA as AA.
Brian Mata is in AAA, so we're going to take AAA guys out of it. Nick York.
I would say no. I would want him to get comfortable. He's going a level a year, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think maybe if it happens, it's like late August, September. Yeah. Mikey Romero, let's get him in Salem first because he's not there yet. Luis Perales.
No.
Again,
he's not getting promoted mid-season.
September. Yeah. Let's consider this as like pre-August promotion. Brandon Walters in Worcester. Edinson Paulino, no.
Honestly, the only guy I'm looking at it who I think you there's only one. It's Drohan.
I could see Lugo.
No,
I guess he spent all a year at Greenville last year.
No, he has one walk this year. That's not happening. It's Drohan. Drohan's the only guy in the top.
Plays Jordan. If you go out to 20, I could see Jordan and Hickey going up to Portland. But yeah, top 15. I'm with you. It's Drohan. Yeah. Fair enough. And I actually I would put Meyer there if he's hitting well enough. All right. Our next email comes from our friend John Berman, Ian, and he asks, watching a little Portland action this Sunday, and Nick York just took his third walk of the day, although it feels like his 47th. How much patience do you think is too much for York, A, for York specifically and his game, and B, then in general? I don't know. Well, it's interesting. The word patience, I think to me, it's when does it cross into passivity? Yeah. And I think it crosses into passivity when you are missing hit pitches that you could do damage with for the sake of seeing more pitches.
I agree. And yeah, York's definitely not at that level.
No, I think, he's definitely not there. I like the patience there. The guy that comes to mind that always used to be the poster boy for this was Josh Ockamy.
Yeah.
Where he walked a ton. He also took a lot of strikes looking. And it's like, at some point, you've got to kind of amp it up into aggressiveness. So to me, I don't know that there's a number. I think if it's at a point that your ability to do damage by putting the ball in play is affected by the fact that you are not hitting enough pitches. Yeah. I don't know that I'm going to walk rate or something for you. Our next question is from Andrew. If Shane Drohan keeps performing at close to the level he currently is, when can we expect to see him in Worcester? I know he's not the same level as Bayo as a prospect, but could we see the same 20-ish total starts in Portland before moving up to Worcester? If he's promoted to Worcester, will this move Mata to the bullpen? I don't think Drohan moving up is what pushes him to the bullpen right now, nor with Godinho and Matt Dermody are both in the Worcester rotation. Yeah. But Drohan, I could see it mid-season if he's shoving the way he is now, just to challenge him.
I agree. I could see, I don't even know if he gets 20 starts.
No.
It might be
he's a different pitcher than he was last year.
If he keeps pitching like he is, it's going to be June 1st, probably.
Put it this way. If he were this pitcher last year, he would have been promoted to Portland sooner.
Yeah, he only made two starts last year.
Yeah, he only got a handful. I think he got 5 or so. I think he was there for about a month and a half. Our next email is from Emiliano in Mexico, Ian, and he had a couple of questions. One, how has Casas fared so far this season compared to how you predicted he would? I think I would just say I'm not terribly surprised that he struggled a little bit. I had hoped he would come out hitting a little better, but I'm more interested to see how he finishes at the end of the year. If he's still like this at the end of the year, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I think that I think the biggest surprise for me is he's not hitting for. I thought it might be low average with power. He's not, but I think it's just he's not hitting the ball that much. So that's the lack of powers from that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm not overly surprised. Like honestly, if I would have guessed, I would have said probably he's going to be hitting like 220 around now, and I think he's at 160. So
Yeah,
it's not that far off.
His second question is: there any chance Connor Wong's back can play closer to how it did in AAA? And I think you're starting to see that.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a chance.
We talked about that. Yeah,
Connor Wong's a great example of why you bet on athletes. Like,
yep,
someone with his athleticism at catcher, and he's definitely made some swing changes. It's playing really well, and with his defense, the bar is so low. Like he doesn't have to hit it all, frankly, with his defense.
Mhm.
But as we saw, like with Kevin Pilecki playing, a couple seasons with the Red Sox, like you can get away if you can defend, you can do whatever at the plate.
Yeah,
But the fact that he's like hitting for power now, and well, he's always had power, but the fact that he's
always
making
had
more
pop. It's contact. Yep.
and just hitting the ball so hard is just really encouraging. And I think the him McGuire combo has a lot of potential behind the plate.
And he asks, with MILB TV be included in the MLB TV package this season, he wanted to know any interesting storylines or which affiliate would it be more fun to follow. I would say go check out our season preview episode because that'll be the reference for you.
Yeah,
on that piece of things.
I mean, I've been watching a lot of Salem just because I get to see
it's the new freshness too.
Well, I get to see Portland and Worcester pretty frequently, and I've seen the Greenville guys a bunch. So I think Salem is kind of the most interesting one to me. But every affiliate, it just depends on the night. There's definitely interesting guys at every level.
Mm-hmm. We got an email from Ben who says, Ben in Chicago via Sudbury again. I emailed a month or so ago asking about international signings, and I'm back with another one. In one of the most recent episodes, Ian was talking about being initially unimpressed with Frelly Encarnacion, who signed for $1+ million, especially compared to smaller bonus guys like Marvin Alcantara showing out. I was wondering what the situation is with the top signing from that year, Fremy De Leon. I can't find anything about him being injured. It seems like he hasn't been moved to the Florida Complex League yet, despite guys like Encarnacion, Johan Fran Garcia, and Alcantara making the jump. Ian said he thought Encarnacion was looking rough at the plate this spring, and then I noticed that he had an even higher average than Fremy last year in the DSL. I know these numbers aren't super significant in the larger picture, but did Fremy just fall flat in his face and they thought he needed another year before the FCL? Is he not what they thought he was? I'm curious if you guys have any further info on him. He also mentioned that he saw from my Twitter that I was at Wrigley recently, which I was, which, by the way, if you get to Chicago, get to Wrigley. It is awesome. He said, I hope you had a good time. I live in Wrigleyville. He was going to buy me a beer. I did not have time. I had to run straight to the airport from Wrigley, but semi offer appreciated. Fremy De Leon, yeah, he's not stateside yet. So as of right now, it looks like the plan is to have him repeat the DSL. Obviously not what you're hoping for out of a guy you give 1.2. I think they gave him, or 1.3.
Yeah, not surprising based on what we heard from out of the DSL last year.
He didn't look super impressive.
He was not one of the guys that was identified as a priority kind of watch or anything.
Mm-hmm. Our next email, God, there are so many. Our next email is from Josh in Columbus, Ohio, who says,
skip. I'm dead serious. Go to the next email.
I was like, why? What did he do? He does say he's been following the website since 2008. He's going to redeem himself
fine.
In your eyes a little bit here, Ian. He says he's been spending hours and hours scouring our rankings and creating the players the site was highest on in MLB The Show.
Okay, respect.
He would have bet his mortgage that Ryan Kalish, Ryan Westmoreland, Ryan LeVarn, he likes Ryans. Lars Anderson, would have become all-stars, alas. Anyway, my question is about the Major League versus Minor League Rule 5 draft, sparked by the Phillies selecting Noah Song in the Rule 5 draft. Essentially, the Phillies locked themselves into keeping Song on the active 26-man roster for 90 days this season, which, if I can correct, after the grace period, blah, blah, blah. But, by the way, he's on the Major League roster all year. It's 90 days if he doesn't make 90 this year.
Correct.
It's the entire year, and then next year, if he hasn't hit 90 yet, he has to
Well, I
stay
don't know
until
what
he
they're
hits 90.
doing with him either. Like,
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
we could talk about it some other time. But why didn't they just draft Song in the minor league Rule 5 draft? What's the difference? The minor league Rule 5 wouldn't have restricted them in the same way to keep a player who has barely thrown a ball in 3 years nor pitched higher than short season A ball on their game day roster for 3 months during a season in which the team is coming off a World Series berth. Good question, Josh. The simple answer is this.
Do you want to answer this? Yeah.
Yeah. The minor league Rule 5 draft is not there's the major league 40-man roster, right? If you are not on the major league 40-man roster, you are eligible for the major league Rule 5 draft. There is a AAA reserve list, which the 40-man roster is technically the major league reserve list.
Yeah.
There is a AAA reserve list, which concludes another, I think, 37 guys, Ian. I don't think it's 40.
But there's certain rules. It's over like who's eligible and everything.
Well, but yeah, so this is the thing. You still have to be Rule 5 eligible. And
Yeah.
because of that, like, if you're not Rule 5 eligible yet and you're not on the 40-man roster, you are not on the AAA reserve list yet.
Yeah.
So typically the Red Sox go into the offseason with like, what is it, like 20 guys, not even, who are Rule 5 eligible, who are not on the AAA reserve list.
Yeah.
And those are exactly the 20 guys you think they are. Like, it's the guys who like are in danger of getting cut, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you can see who was drafted.
Yeah, like they lost Cameron Cannon in the minor league Rule 5 draft, right? Like they don't lose guys like who are guys they didn't protect on like Durbin Feltman, although he got cut. The guys who are the fringe guys for the major league 40-man roster, who are like the surprising guys that didn't get protected, they're all on the AAA reserve list.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you look at like it gets down to like the guys who were eligible last year. Yeah, it's like, it's I'm looking at the list, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, it's guys that like are, again, they're in danger of getting cut. Like, seriously, like those are the types of guys you're talking about. And some teams are deeper than others, which is why you wind up with like the Red Sox find interesting guys like Caleb Ort.
Like the guys who were available for the Red Sox last year were Freddie Valdez, Joe Davis, Alex Ero, Alex Zapata, Tyler Esplin, Cole Cottom, Cam Cannon, Tyreek Reed, Eli Marrero, Will Dalton, Brian Gonzalez, Nick Decker, Eduardo Vaughn. Like, half those guys have been released or retired.
Right.
From the hitters, and I'm not going to do the pitchers, but you get the idea of who's there. Like,
yeah, so that's the answer to that question. I mean, it's a fine question because it's if you know the answer, it's a simple question, but that's not something that's widely understood.
No,
so that's why I like emails, because it makes us say these things.
So it's basically like, actually, Durbin Feldman was protected, by the way. He was on the AAA reserve list.
No, but that was my point. That caliber of player who you think like, oh, maybe there's like a 2% chance they get protected. Like, trust me, if you would even consider. And that's what I'm saying is like Feltman isn't even a guy that was that close. He was definitely protected. That's what I mean. Like, guys that got selected, like Politi, Ward, they were on the AAA reserve list.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is like basically that anyone with pretty much everyone gets put on the AAA reserve list. And then there's a few, like, I mean, there was those hitters, and then how many pitchers were there?
I think it's about the same number. And it's all guys that are
6, 7, 8, 9. There were like 12 pitchers, 13 pitchers. So yeah.
All right. Next question is from Vincent V, who said, can you talk about Chase Mydroth and his progress? We did that. So thank you for the email. Our next email comes from Gregory, who says, what final stages of Shane Drohan's development does he need to make the majors and be successful there? And what is a reasonable time frame for his debut? Which I don't think we really hit on either of those.
No, it's a good question. I would say the first thing is just continuing to find to kind of just use his secondary pitches. Mm-hmm. The changeup is still only like a year and a bit old. Yeah. And the cutter is a new pitch entirely. Yeah. So it's just fine. It's just continuing to get like continuing to get more consistent. I hate that phrasing, but whatever. Getting more consistent with those pitches. And then I would say also it's just continuing to establish his fastball. It can be like, we've seen guys who go fastball uptake. It can really impact their command and control. He's had no issues with it so far. So it's just kind of honing in with that. But as we kind of talked about, like, I would not be surprised at all to see him get a pretty quick promotion to Worcester, because like he's just toying with double A hitters right now. Like he's not really being challenged, I would say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Our next question is from
Sorry. And in terms of a timeline,
I was going to say timeline. I don't think you hit on that. Yeah, I could see mid next. I don't think he comes up this year.
I don't think it would be out. It would be not in their MO to push him aggressively enough that he gets in the major league picture for this year.
Well, put it this way.
At the same time, though, I honestly like if he goes up to AAA and shoves, would he be the top like starting pitching depth? That's yeah.
Might.
So like,
I could see it. I don't think
I would.
We'll put it this way.
I don't think it's likely, but I would say I don't think I think there's a non-zero chance he makes a spot start at some point in August or September.
Put it this way. At this time last year, how would you have answered this for Brian Bayo?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have.
He was ahead of him.
Yeah,
he was, but like not so far ahead of him that there's zero chance Drohan comes up this year.
Well, the other difference too is like it's easier when you have stuff.
Yeah,
which it's stupid to say, but like there's a more of a margin for error when you're 96 to 98 with like crazy movement on your fastball on your sinker, like Bayo is.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no, I would say like if you had, I would say 10 to 15% chance he makes the majors this year.
I mean, it always comes down to opportunity.
Right. Like, and it's, as we said, like there aren't that many starting pitchers ahead of him on the depth chart.
Yeah. Based on how guys are pitching in AAA.
Is he on the, he's not on the 40.
He's not on the 40, but they're going to need to add him this offseason.
Right.
So it's not that big a deal to add him this year.
But yeah, so it's, I wouldn't rule it out. That's what I'd say. But I think a more realistic timeline is you're looking at someone who maybe is competing for a spot next year or is like that goes into the season as a sixth starter.
Mm-hmm. Our next email is from Casey, who says, I'm sorry if you've been barraged with questions about him, but I'm curious about your most recent thoughts on Tanner Houck and his new pitches. The sample size might not be fully there yet, but has now been 5 starts. In those 5, he's thrown a split, and this is before his start tonight. He's thrown a splitter 13.5% of the time, up from 5.7%. In addition, he added his cutter, which he throws 20% of the time. However, he still has fairly sizable lefty-righty splits, and he still has trouble the third time through. So I guess my question is, now that he's showing new pitches, how has his long-term outlook changed for you two? And I think the question kind of answers itself at the end there. Really?
Yeah. I think trying. He's trying, and I give him a ton of credit for that. I honestly, someone suggested this on Twitter. I'd love to see him with an opener. Like he strikes me as someone who, if you could have someone go 2 innings ahead of him, like you have Bernardino open. Bernardino would frankly be perfect, actually. If you have 3 lefties on the roster,
yeah,
you run out Bernardino for 2 innings. That way they don't load the lineup up with lefties. You run him out for 2 innings, and then you go to Houck for 4 to 5. Like I think that honestly is a role that he could be pretty good at. Otherwise, I still think a bulk role is his best. And this is the thing, like he probably could be a starter all season. Like, and the results will be similar to what we are there. Like one of every 3 or 4 starts is going to be good enough. The others are going to be struggles. He'll get through, he'll give you 4 good innings, couple bad innings. Like it'll be what we've seen so far. Like, I just think that in terms of effectiveness, he would be more effective in a full-time bullpen role.
Mm-hmm. And let's do one more. If you sent an email that's not necessarily time sensitive, we'll get to it next episode. This email is from Ben, who says, I find myself more fond of this team than I thought I would be. However, I still can't figure out how Ryan Brazier is on the roster at this point. With Thaddeus Ward throwing quality innings in Washington while being a younger and controllable for longer, do you think this was a big miss on the front office's part? I know both guys are in mop-up roles, but wouldn't you rather have Ward in that situation given the reasons listed above? It's interesting, Ian, because my initial response to this is the same response that everyone has had to why are Ort and Brazier on the 40-man and not Ward. And to me, the problem with that is unless you were going to start Ward in the major leagues, you can't just make that swap because they had like 13. They had exactly the number of relief pitchers they needed to start the year. They had no reliever depth,
and they wouldn't have started. But the thing is, the counter to that is that you build the roster differently if you have Ward on the 40. Do you know what I mean?
But do you?
Yeah, I mean, you go find another. You trade someone, or you go out and.
Well, that's the thing. It would have forced them to remove someone else from the 40-man. But it can't just be Brazier because if you it's not just straight Ward for Brazier. That's the thing. You're moving someone else to get that other MLB reliever.
Well, not necessarily because they have like.
It is.
No, because like right now they have like Justin Garza on the 40-man. Like that's a 40-man spot that could have been used by someone else. Like because of the 60-day stuff they have.
But at the beginning of the year, because you have to look at opening day. On opening day, they had exactly 8 major league healthy major league relief pitchers. That's why Ort made the team.
Right. No. I agree with that. But that was partially because of injury. Who was hurt at the beginning of the year?
It was Whitlock, Bayo, Paxton, Joely, and what's his face? The other reliever who's hurt. Why can I not remember this right now? I'm having a brain fart.
I don't know who you're talking. Oh, no, not Zach Kelly.
Why can I not?
Wyatt Mills.
Wyatt Mills, thank you. And they didn't have guys on the 60 yet. So it's like,
well, but the thing is, like, I could see that be when you like, I don't know, you DFA Wyatt Mills or something. Like, I don't look at it. Well, I think, yeah. I think that I would not like. I understand what they saw in Brazier. I just personally, in terms of asset like accumulation, I think you could find guys like Brazier out on free agency or in waivers or trades, frankly, where you don't give up very much. Whereas I think just Ward has more upside and more long-term value.
Yeah, I guess
I would have protected Ward and you figure it out. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. But my point is just that you have to figure it out. It's not a simple 1-for-1 of take Brazier off of the roster, add Ward. His point is, wouldn't you rather have Ward on the major league roster than Brazier?
No, I wouldn't.
And they wouldn't have done
Ward
that.
Wouldn't be on the major league roster. Ward
he would be starting in AA.
The only reason Ward is on the Nationals major league roster is because of the Rule 5 draft.
He has to be.
If the Nationals could, they would not have him on the major league
roster. If the Nationals could, they would have him in AA.
Yeah. So that's why.
I mean, I think that's the problem. Is it's not because
it's
of
not
the
1-for-1, but I think
if the 40-man roster right now was what they had on opening day, right, where you have 2 relief pitchers in AAA, then yes, you 100% should have had Ward on the 40-man and Brazier.
Well, no,
but that's not what they had.
Well, but the thing is, wasn't like Crawford not on the opening day roster?
No, he was. He was in the rotation.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
He was in the rotation. Like the only guys and the only pitchers in AAA on the 40-man roster were Mata, Walter, and Murphy.
Yeah. You would have had to find another pitcher, but I honestly would have preferred that route than Brazier.
Well, you would have had, but the thing is, it's that to get Ward on the 40.
Well, no, he just takes Brazier's spot, and then
you need. But the thing is, if Ward isn't going to be in the major leagues, and you're adding him to the 40 for a pitcher who was in the major leagues, you need to remove a minor leaguer to add another major league arm, or just start the year with Mata in the major league bullpen,
or just like
Walter.
you just put like someone else on the 60, like you put Wyatt Mills on the 60.
Yeah, you just force Mills onto the 60.
Like I'm kind of surprised he's frankly not on the 60.
No, he is.
No, he is on the 60 now.
He is now. He wasn't yet at that point.
So my point is, you just do Mills earlier onto the 60, like something like that.
Yeah, and but you still. That's the thing is you have to add another major league arm to replace Brazier because they had exactly 8 major league relievers.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, yeah, we're gonna hit the rest of the emails later because we're running long and I need to take the dog out and go to bed. So again, podcast@soxprospects.com. Thank you all for your emails. We really appreciate it. And with that, we will wrap up. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for downloading the podcast. Thank you for rating, reviewing, and thank you for supporting us on patreon.com/soxprospects. This episode's $5 tier supporters who we want to shout out are Andrew K., Jeff Harwood, Dusty G., Michael Murphy, Pavel, Jordan Shabbat, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Mike Kawano, and Chris Bollier. Thank you all for your support. You can also support us by following us on Twitter. You can follow Ian at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. Follow me at SP Chris Hatfield and follow the website at Sox Prospects on both Twitter and Instagram. We also want to give a shout out to the Ludlow Thieves for our intro and outro music. The song is called All the Money. You can find their stuff wherever it is that you listen, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon Music, wherever it is that you listen, YouTube. They're everywhere that you can stream or buy music. They deserve your support. Great band. I think that's it for Ian. I'm Chris. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back in your eardrums soon.